Hello, my dear viewers. It is February 28th, a traditional review of events on the fronts, the Ukrainian war, Chasov Yar direction here. By the way, very interesting and notable events took place yesterday. They began the day before yesterday, the enemy, realizing that we have dug pretty deep into his defense. This already presents a major threat to the entire front in the Chasov Yar area. He made desperate attempts to dislodge us from the occupied positions. For this, just like in Avdiivka, he brought a full brigade. A fresh elite brigade, which over the course of 2 days tried to knock us out of the occupied positions, but with exactly the same result as these attempts were carried out in the area of Avdiivka, primarily because we were able to timely calculate his concentration and deliver massive blows with cabs on the places of deployment and advance of enemy troops. In this way, even before the battle, we managed to disrupt his battle formations and the attack was quite weak. The troops managed to completely repel these attacks. Moreover, according to the information that I have, we were even able to make a little progress yesterday in Ivanovskoye, and it was yesterday that Ukrainian publics, near military publics, began exactly the same hysterical notes in relation to Ivanovskoye, as it was when the 3rd Brigade, the Ungul, the Azov, tried to counterattack in the area of Avdiivka. That is, they had been preparing this counterattack for a long time, put forward reserves for him, very much hope for him, and when this counterattack failed, they began to panic. So yesterday, exactly the same notes of panic were on Ukrainian publics after the failure of their counterattack, which they obviously very much counted on. And this is actually a very important point that I would like to draw attention to. The fact is that the most important problem for any side is tactics. Tactics in defense and tactics in offensive. Obviously, the enemy is in trouble defensively right now. With the help of aviation and effective artillery fire, we penetrate and push through his defense line, putting him in uncomfortable positions, which further compel him to retreat from very comfortable lines, as happened in Avdiivka, and to be exact, that's exactly what we are now trying to accomplish in Chasov Yar. Everywhere the enemy is trying to find a method to neutralize such our attacks. In Avdiivka, he used a whole brigade, the 3rd separate assault brigade of the Azov soldiers. Yes, it couldn't do anything, and exactly the same we are now seeing in Chasov Yar. The enemy using exactly the same tactics, applying a concentrated attack of a whole elite brigade, tried to rob us of all our achievements. Once again, we, using exactly the same tactics of destroying his units on approach and disorganization of his combat formations during concentrations, were able to completely thwart this counterattack attempt. That is, again, we outplayed the enemy in his counterattack attempt, and if we manage now to strike the next blow, knock the enemy out of the attack, at least from the eastern part of Chasov Yar, then the enemy will begin to have a catastrophe in this city. And the catastrophe in Chasov Yar is as important as the defeat in Avdiivka, because it immediately leads us to Konstantinovka and Druzhkovka. And if at the same time with this I want to remind you again about my map, 10-day givens, we will be able to break through the line of defense in the area of Ocheretin to the north, then the enemy will face a catastrophic situation for the other largest group in the Turetsky area. It is for this reason that the battles for Chasov Yar are critically important, and also very important will be our offensive further to the north of Ocheretin. We will definitely need to break through this line of defense, and I think that in the coming weeks we will be closely watching the battle in this direction. The next important area that is gradually gaining momentum is Zaporizhia, and our troops are expanding their line of attack. If earlier we mostly operated in the area of Verbova, well, I will say to advance. So I'm sure, and I was sure that we would hardly be able. It's very good to advance there. There are very serious combat formations, but we have already expanded our attacks yesterday in the area of Gulyai Pol. Our attack aircraft covered a whole kilometer at once. They were able to gain a foothold almost on the outskirts of this settlement, the most important settlement in the enemy's defense in this sector, and I think that the coming week here will be very, very intense. We will also wish our guys success and will wait for news from this front line. Against this backdrop, our attacks in the area of Senkivka and Lyman, despite the fact that they have a tactical success, I think that this is still a diversion of the attention of the enemy forces. And the main task here is for our troops to create conditions so that the enemy cannot transfer any reserves from here to other directions, where he obviously does not have enough of these reserves. That is the main event that is now taking place on the line of contact. I continue to closely monitor everything.